All right. You ready?
Yeah, I'm just waiting for the live stream to.
It's on now. It's on live.
Okay.
All
Oh,
right, go ahead and hit the record.
okay. Everybody ready? All our giggles are out. Okay.
All right, we're back again. I'm Sasha Nicole.
And I'm Starr.
And I'm Dr. T.
And this is American Therapy, the definitive podcast on all things Black mental health. And we are super excited today because we're coming in with another live show. And we have some phenomenal guests. We've also had some phenomenal partnerships for today's show. And so we're just going to get right into it. This is really important because we started the first ever HBCU mental health tour. And given everything going on with COVID, we've had to pivot like most of the world. And so this is our first pivot and exciting partnership with Hampton University, as well as the National Coalition of 100 Black Women for the DC chapter. And so, Starr, tell us, what we're talking about today. We're leading the way, new normal of education, and give us a spill.
Well, first of all, I'm a descendant of a proud Hampton University graduate. My grandmother graduated with 3 degrees prior to what was a Hampton Normal School, a Hampton Teachers College. So the real HU, and I'm a graduate of A&T. I always throw that in there. So today, we're talking about the new normal of education. Everything seems like it's been thrown off course, but maybe this is a blessing. So the new normal. Let's get into it.
Yeah, so we're going to get into it. I want to first introduce Eris Scales, who is the president of the National Coalition of 100 Black Women DC chapter. We've partnered with this show, with this chapter today. I'm also a member of that chapter because one of our missions is Black girls and women in education. Absolutely. So Eris, we just want to throw it to you, introduce the chapter, the mission, and why this is important.
Absolutely. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Good evening. I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you, Sister Sasha, for bringing us to the table and to be part of this conversation. I am Eris Scales. I'm the president of the DC chapter. We're actually coming up on our 5th anniversary in August. We are one of 53 chapters across the country. And every day our mission is to advocate on behalf of Black women and girls day in and day out. We focus on education, economic empowerment, and health. And when we think about why this is so important today, we know even before COVID that the ability for Black women in our communities to be able to pivot and respond to adversity and challenges is super critical and important. So to be able to be part of this, I'm a fan. I was like, 5-star rated podcast. Shout out for that. But and as a mom who has a child who's in college, who actually started at Hampton University before transferring to Howard University.
Oh, no.
I know. But when I first heard about you all wanting to really empower and support our young people around mental health, it got me excited. And so to see this conversation still continue despite the pivot is very important. We want to make sure that our young people, we want to make sure that our parents, we want to make sure that our community is strong inside and out, and that we're resilient and able to navigate through this. So that's why it's important. Any opportunity to pour into our community, to pour into our Black women, into our Black girls is a day to show up. And so I'm happy to be here. Thank you so much. And I encourage all of you guys to follow us on social media. Consider if you want to be a future partner, if you want to be a donor, you may want to be a member. Our DC chapter would love to bring you to the table because you cannot have enough advocates having the backs of Black women.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Eris. We appreciate that. Thank you for partnering with us. This is excellent and a big deal. And we want to continue to serve this mission, as you mentioned, across the board, especially within DC for our Black women and girls, and education is definitely important for that. So we're going to go ahead and transition. And as you know, we have a panel today. So we have Dr. Michelle Penn Marshall, who we're going to introduce in a second. And then we also have, obviously, our of course, Dr. T, Dr. Tanya Royster, as well as Dr. Christy Norwood, who is the head of the counseling service for Hampton University. She is the director there. And then we have some students. We have 2 students who are currently at Hampton University, as well as a former student who lives in the district, and we'll be speaking to them. And last but not least, we'll be closing it out with no other than Bea Dixon, who is the Honey Pot founder. Many of you may know her, and she is leading the way with feminine products, as well as many other things for Black women and girls. And she'll be closing us out to talk to us about how education has helped lead the way for entrepreneurship for her. And so we're just going to go ahead and get started. So as mentioned, Dr. Michelle Penn Marshall. And so Dr. Marshall serves as the Vice President for Research, Associate Provost, and the Dean of the Graduate College at Hampton University. As a tenured professor, she has served in academia for 15 years and in various capacities at Hampton, to include but not limited to administrator, faculty member, researcher, and student mentor. She's the Dean of the Graduate College and oversees over 500 graduate students and 27 master's and 9 doctoral programs, including the Doctor of Nursing Practice and Pharmacy and the Doctor of Philosophy and Nursing and Physics. Clearly, physics was not my strong point. In all these roles, she demonstrates her commitment to preparing faculty and students for research and professional careers. She received a BA in biology and an MS in biology with a concentration in environmental science from Hampton and a PhD in community nutrition from Virginia Tech. As a doctoral student, she studied the effects of resistant starch on African Americans and increased risk for type 2 diabetes. Her dissertation received a national award from the American Association of Higher Education Black Caucus. So Dr. Marshall, thank you so much for being here. And if you could just go ahead and lead us off in introducing yourself and why, this is such a big deal in teaming and talking about education and where we are in this current climate and why this is important.
Thank you so much, Sasha. I will certainly do that, but please call me Michelle. My mother did not name me doctor. I'm very thankful to have the title, but my name is absolutely Michelle. So thank you all so much for the opportunity. Thank you for what you've done and what you continue to do in the community. It is so important that women, young girls, know who they are and that they have role models to follow. And it is also important that our HBCUs continue to exist and continue to shine. I think we have anywhere from 102 to 105 now. I don't want us to lose another HBCU. We can't afford to. Our world can't afford to lose that type of brain power. And as I think about what people often call the relevance of HBCUs, that question really kind of makes me pause. What do we mean by that? We've had seminars on that are taught at predominantly white institutions, that are taught at historically Black institutions. And I really believe that we need the world to recognize the value of HBCUs at the same level, the exact same level as other institutions. I think that is extremely important. I'm so honored to be here. It's so nice to know that there are people that aren't just thinking about themselves. Each one of you could be doing something different this evening, but you have chosen to take up the mantle. You have chosen to lead the way. You have chosen to be a president of the organization. You have chosen to invite other people to be members. And it just is very humbling. It's very humbling. And I think the world now is looking at people through different lenses, not just looking at the color of someone's skin, but actually looking at the value that they bring.
Doctor, look, I'm getting ready to say Dr. Michelle. Yeah. Look, you earned that work. Okay. So for people we're talking about new normal of education, but like there's this whole backdrop of social justice and change, plus this global pandemic, like because HBCUs are always going to be relevant, but how important is that HBCU background and that grounding space for this next step in the social justice civil rights movement? Like, where do we fit as HBCU grads and students in this very moment right now?
We we fit at the same place that we have always been for over 150 years. While we were opened initially to train teachers or agriculturalists, we've done so much more. I really Had I really paid close attention, I would have yielded to the two beautiful students that are there, Jay and Ahmad, because I know they have so much to offer. But we fit in the same place. We have a voice. We need to be at the table. But I want to share something with you that I read in the literature. Historically, Black colleges and universities have exceeded the expectation of the original purpose of only appeasing Black people and not succeeding by providing 150 years of success. Hampton just celebrated our sesquicentennial, 150 years, almost 2 years ago now. You have other institutions that are older than Hampton is. And we've been successful because we band forces, we come into agreement, we work together. Sometimes we have things in spite of and not because of, and that's why we're still relevant. That's why we're still successful. We train the leaders, we train the physicists, we train the social and political activists. Look at the number of people when we think about who sat on the Supreme Court. Students help me. But he couldn't get into a white institution. And he led the way with Brown versus the Board of Education. I watched my father earn a doctorate at UVA 20 years after he had started because they wouldn't let him finish because he was Black. Yet he opened Prince Edward County Schools in Virginia 5 years after they closed. He was younger as a principal than some of his own students. So if we as a people would continue to do what Martin Luther King has taught us, would continue to just know who we are and whose we are, we're going to continue to be successful. But we can't do it through division. We can't do it through segregating ourselves based on any differences that we see. I know many of you have heard about the Willie Lynch syndrome. We can't do that. The things are too important. These young students that are sitting here waiting to speak, they are too important. And I want to apologize to them, to their generation, because in my generation, I think we dropped the ball. I dropped the ball. Very comfortable, had scholarships, had things that paved the way for us on people's backs. And I just slept a little bit through it. You know, did I not see racism? Did I not experience it at other institutions? Absolutely. But they are taking up the mantle. And many of you, I can see how young some of you are. You all are taking up the mantle where my generation, and I'll just speak for myself, dropped the ball. So we're going to hand you the baton, but we're going to support you. We're going to let you know who you are. What I got at Hampton was a sense of purpose, a sense of who I am, knowing that no matter what, there's a professor, there's a staff member, someone who's cutting the grass, who's going to smile at you and let you know, you can do this, baby. You do this. I didn't have an opportunity to do it, but you do it. So I want to share something else from that article that just kind of came from my heart. But we have assured academic functions in Black America. We are role models. We have produced agents for research, George Washington Carver. Produced agents for research, institutional training, and information dissemination. We provide key leadership in Black America and in the nations. I love the book by Colin Powell that said, I love his book, and he deals with information, like 70% of the information. That's how he makes his decision, based on 70% of the information that he's given. So I'm going to be quiet now because I think you have something else to say, Ms. Starr.
Well, Michelle, I'm gonna chime in here and thank you. Before we transition to the students, we just have one last question for you. Sure. Being in your position and seeing so many things at Hampton, what is something that you would say that are some major challenges that are faced by HBCUs going forward? And then how, especially as Hampton, how are you leading the change, leading the way, not only through some of these challenges, but also, you know, looking at what is school going to be looking at in the fall with everything going on?
That's a great question. So some of the challenges that HBCUs face really are related to funding. As a person who writes grant proposals, Dr. Norwood is right here. She's on a team and we're working diligently, but funding, because the playing field is not level. You have to be on some of the review panels for National Institutes of Health, National Science Foundation. You need to sit on some of the boards that make the funding decisions, because some of the things that they look at and they grade you low in would be environment. They'll say, you teach too much, you don't have time, you don't have the right labs, you don't have the right resources, and they may have never ever seen your institution or anything about it. So funding and leveling the playing field. So when people submit, institutions, HBCUs submit proposals, they are viewed in the same way that a predominantly white institution's proposal would be submitted. An example is about 5 years ago, there was an article that came out, and there was an institution that had one PI had 30 grants. Now,
Ooh.
can that one PI really do that? Yet HBCUs would apply for that, and they're like, nope, you don't have the environment. So it's name recognition, it's being at the table, it's making the decisions, and it's also rattling people's chains sometimes and letting them know, calling them on the carpet to say, this is not fair, it's not right, you're losing out on something because you have an implicit bias. Now, you ask about the new normal for our students. I am just so thankful for what, and I'm going to name her. Dr. Barbara Inman is leading a committee, and I know the students have seen it, Pirate's Own Course. And it really talks about how school is going to open August 5th, how students and faculty and staff, we will wear a mask, we will wash our hands, some of the things that we will do to keep people safe. We will have people in single rooms. They're just things that we will do. The cafeteria, I recommended creating an app so students won't have to wait and wonder, how long am I going to have to wait to get this particular meal? How many people are in there? Because you're reducing the amount of people who can come into an area at one time. Allowing Monday, Wednesday, Friday classes. As part of the students will go to the class on Monday, a 50% reduced capacity. The other half will report on Wednesdays. And then those students who didn't report to the classroom on Mondays will be online, taking the course remotely, doing those kinds of things so that they can have the education that they deserve, no matter what the pandemic is, no matter what the situation is. Requesting funds for scholarships. I want to share that our department chair of the Department of Computer Science, she's been Zooming me at night. I told her I couldn't do it tonight. We Zoomed last night, we Zoomed another Friday night, because she has some students who are golf majors and computer science majors who may not have a scholarship because that sport doesn't bring in money. Lacrosse doesn't bring in money. And it's not that Hampton doesn't want to give those students scholarships, but when you have budget cuts and when you don't have everything coming in or all the funds coming in that you normally do, you're going to have to make some really hard decisions. So what has she done? Contact Tiger Woods and say, you know what? We have students that need this. We want them to come. What else have we done? Put a draft together for Viacom and BET to say, we want 1,000 scholarships for 1,000 undergrads and 100 scholarships for graduate students. We appreciate, and we give a lot of money to those particular businesses, all of the businesses, we give a lot of money to them. So it's a wonderful time to just in your heart, think about, what can I do? Who do I know? Who can I call? So that each one of the students, we have 2 represented here, have an opportunity to continue their education at an HBCU, to continue their education so that they can do everything they were created to do. So those are some of the things that we're doing, some of the hard decisions that are being made. I would just also employ alumni to please give. I know sometimes you're like, oh, I'm mad at them when I was there, this happened and that happened. And you know how long I stood in the line and nobody ever called me back. And Professor so-and-so always gave me a C. Let all of that go. Some of that is true. Some of it you brought on yourself, but I did it too. Let it
know,
go.
Dr. Marshall, that validation line at Virginia State University, let me shout them out.
We've had some long lines. We've been able to get rid of most of them. But yes, ma'am. But sometimes it's because we don't have the infrastructure. We don't have the technology. Virginia State, I graduated from Virginia Tech. would have loved to earn that degree at Virginia State. However, they're both landmark institutions. Do they get the same amount of funding?
Nowhere near.
I
No, we don't. So we're going to go ahead and transition to our students.
Yes,
Dr. Marshall,
ma'am.
we thank you
No,
for your
thank you.
And Tiger Woods, holla at Hampton University.
Yes.
Come on, cut that check, bruh.
I will make a comment, but we need Tiger.
I'll make a comment too. You know, that's my type.
Thank
So
you,
we're going to
Sasha.
transition to our students that we have, and also a former student from Hampton University. We have Ahmad Edmond. Ahmad is a rising senior from Louisville, Kentucky. He's currently a political science major with a minor in leadership studies.
Good job.
He's at Hampton University, and he's currently involved in the Greer Dawson Wilson Student Leadership Program and the Student Government Association. He lives by Booker T. Washington's quote, "If you want to lift yourself up, lift up someone else." Jayla Daniel. Jayla is a rising senior from Houston, Texas. She is currently majoring in psychology. She is serving as a member of the Peer Counselor Student Organization and was also the first independent study student within the Hampton University Student Counseling Center. She lives by President Barack Obama's quote that says, "Change will not come if we wait for some other person or some other time. We are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the change that we seek." And then we also have Miss Courtney Savoy Harper, who was born in DC, raised in Columbia, Maryland, and currently lives in Tacoma, DC with her husband and son. She went to Hampton University to follow her love of the arts and never fell out of love, continuing her education at George Washington University, studying art education. And education is Courtney's lifelong passion. She's currently preparing for year 14 as an art teacher at Coolidge High School in DC. She also practiced art professionally in the DMV area and specializes in mural illustrations and company branding. Her work can be found on 85 feet school walls and embassies in our nation's capital. Oh, so Courtney, we gonna need you to draw something for us.
I got y'all.
Important to Miss Savoy Harper. She's an active member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, and she's the funder and founder of the annual Savoy Legacy Scholarship, the sponsor of many art initiatives like Design District and Art Club to many students. And giving back, she's social business driven. Her approach separates her from other educators who say she breaks the saying, "Those who can't do, teach," and she will not be limited and believes that you can do it all. So we're going to jump into it with our students.
Good evening, everybody.
Being here. So Ahmad, go ahead and start us off and just talk to us about, with you being a part of the SGA, is there anything you feel like as a current student that other students should be pushing for within their schools?
Stand up, 502.
Right, that's right. 502's in the house. Good evening to everybody, and thank
Good
you,
evening.
Sasha, for having me on tonight. As the only gentleman on the call, thank you again, doubly, for this fine invitation. I would say yes, students should be pushing connectivity from their school. Even though we are apart, technology has advanced so much that has allowed us to stay connected, even though we are miles apart in different states, doing different things, but we can still stay on beat, stay in the loop of things with our university. And that's why I'm so glad that we have representatives of our student body that are committed to ensuring that every student is connected and working with the administration to ensure that we make up the Hampton body and we continue being the standard of excellence.
Absolutely. Me and Starr, we often talk during the show to coincide of different things, and we see like a young Dr. King.
Young King. I'm like, Sasha was like, "Is this brother Dr. King?"
Booker T.
Oh, I know, absolutely. Jayla, how are you? Thank you for being on. You are currently serving as a member of the Peer Counselor Student Organization and was the first independent study student within HU. What has that been like, and what does that mean in being able to be a peer counselor for other students, especially during a time like this where there are so many students who may be feeling a plethora of things and aren't sure how to relate that or talk about it? What has that been like for you, and what are your thoughts in being able to support that among other institutions who maybe should adopt something like that?
I think it's amazing. As a peer counselor, a lot of my peers during this time, they feel anxious and very unsure of themselves with so much uncertainty. surrounding the future, and being able to be for my my peers, just be helpful for my peers. It's amazing.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So Jay, what is it like for, as you being a student, what are the things that I'm going to say kids, oh Lord, I'm 40. I'm no longer, I'm no longer young, but what are the things that like you're hearing that your peers need and are like stressed out about or worried about as we enter? I mean, this is a new era and things, I'm not going to say they're not going to go back, but we're going to establish a new normal, to quote Dr. T, right? So like, what are the things that the students are saying, you know, I'm concerned about how this looks going forward?
Well, a lot of my peers are stressed out with graduation. A lot of them do not know what the GRE and just the application process and getting recommendations and establishing a good relationship with their professors. So as some students aren't able to go back into the fall and establish really good relationships with their professors, they're getting a lot of anxiety and they don't know what to do. And there's so many environmental factors that cause a lot of people to have stress and anxiety. So just being a senior student and being able to relay, kind of being able to relate to a lot of my peers, I believe I can help them.
Courtney, as a former student and now also as a mom, what are some things that you feel like as a parent, or maybe, and not sure, did your parents ever discuss with you the importance of mental health and things that you may be going through or that may happen at school once you went off to Hampton?
Well, that's not something I was taught about, honestly. I tried to be strong, right? I tried to do it all myself, keep it secret, and somehow I made it through. I did make it through. You definitely need that connectivity, like everyone was talking about, that togetherness. That's something I'm very nervous about for my son. He's on the Zoom. We get Zoom fatigue, right? You don't really want to enjoy learning as much. So I just think that experience might be lost. So I hope we can find a way to continue to be connected, even though it's social. They call it social distancing. We don't like that, right? We don't like that. So we want to try to make sure we are social, because mental health isn't talked about. I wasn't talked about it when I was that age, but back then it wasn't as hip it is now. You know, I talk to my therapist once a week now. I don't play that game. So I need that. But and also I need to talk to my son. My son is 4, so I think maybe it's too early to talk about that. But you ask those questions. How are you? How do you feel that you're not going into school? Just asking questions and asking why, explain those type of things. Yeah.
Dr. T, before we bring Beatrice in, can you talk a little bit? I see you on mute, so I was like, Dr. T, can you talk a little bit to the young people about, like, because there is this feeling of like we lost something or we losing
Yeah.
something, like how can they approach that?
Yeah, well, first, to support Courtney and other young people like her, it's never too early to start thinking about your mental health. You're doing exactly what you said. Think about how you're feeling. Connect with what is actually happening inside of you. Don't feel like any feeling you have isn't okay. It's okay to feel whatever you feel. It's not okay to be paralyzed by it. It's not okay to become immobile by it. But you have to acknowledge it so you can deal with it and move on. And that's, kind of the advice that I would start with the students about. I really am trying to get people to embrace this concept of the new normal. And I think this generation is perfectly poised. They have been the most creative, innovative, resilient generation that we have seen, at least in my lifetime.
Absolutely.
And so for them to think of a new way to do education, to think of a new way to be present with each other and still have a safe physical distance, which is the term that they're trying to now coin instead of social distancing, because isolation is deadly. Isolation is dangerous. And so we don't want young people to isolate themselves. We don't want them to minimize their feelings or to hold up a strong face so that their families aren't worried about them. We want them to share, like, yeah, I'm scared, but I'm going to go forward because this is important for me. This is important for our family. This is important for our community. So really bringing out all those creative juices that got you to the point that you are now is what I would say to young people. Is you're not going to be a Black young person in America and not have created some creative space for yourself to be successful. And so use that same energy, that same juice, that same, umph, whatever your family calls it, to help yourself begin to create a new normal, and then help the rest of us older people. Starr is 40, I'm 50, right? So help us
y'all
all.
look good.
I'm young. I don't know.
I'm 21.
40s, the 50s. But help us all. People always talk about young people are our future, but the reality is young people are our current. And they are the ones who are going to help us think outside the box, who are going to help us forge a new path. That just hasn't been a strong point of previous generations. We tinker around the edges, but young people in today's young person, they came and just blew the box up. And they were like, we no longer feel the need to be defined by the things. And it's wonderful because they don't diminish what we've done. They have a beautiful way of acknowledging where we've been, but blowing the top off that thing. And that's what I would encourage them to bring that same energy to their new educational experiences as they go forward.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. T. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to jump to Ms. Beatrice Dixon and then go back to our mental health component with Dr. Norwood. Beatrice Dixon, when she was younger, she suffered with bacterial vaginosis for 8 months. One night, an ancestor gave her the ingredients to heal herself in a dream. From that insightful dream, she created the formula for a healthy, clean, feminine wash. In 2014, Dixon launched the Honey Pot Company, a plant-based feminine hygiene line created with a goal to provide women with a healthy alternative to feminine care that is free of chemicals, parabens, carcinogens, and sulfates. And then, as we know, the rest has been history. With her experience in pharmaceuticals, retail, and natural foods, Dixon has the insight and expertise to bring the innovative concept of a plant-based feminine care system to the marketplace. Unlike mass market and conventional feminine care brands, consumers will be able to get all of their feminine care needs met under one brand, as the Honey Pot Company currently offers feminine washes, wipes, tampons, pads, mommy-to-be products, and soon-to-be additional offerings in both feminine hygiene and feminine care segments. Today, the Honey Pot Company's products can be found online and in stores nationwide at Target, Walmart, Urban Outfitters, Walgreens, Bed Bath & Beyond, Wegmans, and Whole Foods, among many other retailers. She's empowering African-American female entrepreneur, and she's been a recipient of the Sundial and Unilever's multi-million-dollar New Voices Fund. She was one of the first 40 women of color to raise $1 million in venture capital, which is really, really a big deal and very hard to do as a woman of color. She's been featured in T-Pain's School of Business, BuzzFeed's Ladylike series, Today's Show, The New York Times, Entrepreneur, Elle, Essence, and Forbes, to name a few. And most recently, she was named one of Entrepreneur's top 100 groundbreaking women entrepreneurs of 2019. And her company won a 2020 Essence Best in Black Beauty Award, and she received a CEW Indy 65 Award in 2019, honoring beauty's independent companies. Through her diverse background and experience, Dixon continues to make a mark in the world of natural health and retail with a truly revolutionary approach to feminine health and sexual wellness. So, Ms. Dixon, thank you so much for joining us. We're super excited to have you. And I'm going to slide in your DMs for those earrings afterwards, because I love them.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on. If you could just talk to us about how education has really helped lead the way in being an entrepreneur, as well as overcoming a lot of the obstacles that you've had to face, not only with having to raise venture capital funds, but also with, as many of us know, the Target controversy. So how has that been able to help you in doing everything that you've been doing?
Well, I didn't finish college. I did finish high school. I didn't like school very much, and I've never been good at doing things that I don't like to do. But but I have been in school in my life. I have been in school and practicing and doing and operating a business and and careers and all those types of things. So I feel like all of us are in school one way or another, right? Either it's organized or it's just in our lives. Our life is one big school. Our world, our where we are in this present moment, we are only here because of everything that we've done in our past, right? So, um, so I think that answers your question or what you asked of me.
And you
If you want to be a little more specific.
You went to Clark Atlanta though, right? So you got that HBC route.
I started, but I didn't I didn't finish. I didn't even I started and then I was like, nah, this isn't what I want to do. I've never been I've just never been into organized religion. I've never necessarily been into organized education outside of what I had to do, when I was living with my mother. I've kind of just preferred to make my own way, if that makes sense.
Now that makes perfect sense, but can you help our students and those that are watching that are prospective students as they look at you? I mean, I think you're like Black girl magic in a box of tampons, right? Like
that's good.
That level of resiliency,
that's the nicest thing that anybody's ever said to me. Look, having a level of resiliency is really, it has to come from a place of wanting to, right? You have to want to do the things that you want to do. If you want to do them, then you will do them well, right? So I think being resilient, having tenacity, having grit, having focus, paying attention. I want to live really well. I want to have wealth in my life. Firstly, through my joy and my happiness and my health. Secondly, through financial means, right? And in order to do that, especially because I didn't finish college and I didn't finish school, I've had to work really hard and learn and make a lot of mistakes and go through hardship. I've been homeless. I've worked multiple jobs at a time. I've done everything that a person can do to survive, right? But I'm grateful for those moments. So I feel like whatever you choose, right, you are responsible for that choice. You are responsible for your happiness. Even as a young adult, once you finish high school, right, and even while you're in there, you are responsible for how you take care of yourself. When you're in college, especially if this is your first time going away, right, you have to be responsible for yourself, and you have to make choices, right? And whatever choices you make, you have to live with it, right? So, so for me, that has been the best teacher for me. Really being conscious and aware of the decisions that I make, and I'm grateful and I'm extremely blessed, doesn't even say it. I'm just grateful that I get to be in a place where I can do exactly what I want to do, right? I can be the exact change in the world that I want to be in. But the realness behind it is I want to be, right? And I think more than anything, more than saying to somebody, you have to do this way, A, B, and C. There is no rule book on how you can be successful or how you can be happy or, if you decide to go to school. Look, people can write books till they're blue in the face, but you as a person, as a human being, who is responsible for your life, you have to decide what you want to do for your life, right? And what's going to make you happy and how you want to focus and how you want to grow. And you need to know what you want to do when you grow up. Like honeypot isn't even what I want to be when I grow up, right? I just realized I want to be a chef when I grow up, right? Um, I'm 37. I'm still young, God willing, I'm retiring by the time I'm 40. So I can still do what I want to do, right? but my point is, whatever the decisions are that you make sure that you want to do them, and don't blame anybody if you make a decision and it doesn't go the way you want it to go. It is your responsibility. That was your decision, and so I live by that, I guess.
Beatrice, what is something that, because you make a good point, and there are many students who come to school, maybe it wasn't what they thought it was going to be. Maybe they have a dream of entrepreneurship and feel like school, they don't maybe necessarily want to finish school. What was it that helped you go to the finish line with Honey Pot? Because as you mentioned, like there's grit, there's tenacity, there's a lot of different things, but how did you get to, you had this dream. How did you go from start to finish, and what kept you in the race and going and being able to do that throughout any obstacles?
My grandmother came to me in the dream. I then woke up, remembered, wrote it down, made it. I made the wash that she told me to make. It worked. And to be quite honest, even though I've been through some remarkable things, I'm going back to my original point. This is what I want to do. This is my life's work, right? And nobody, maybe somebody else would have done it, right? But nobody would do it the way that I have chosen to do it, right? And so for me, I feel my grandmother came to me, my dead grandmother, by the way, who has been dead since my mother was 8 years old, right? Came to me, traveled through dimensions to meet me in a dream, to show me her face, to show me the piece of paper. Because typically in dreams, you don't physically see, it's always like, I remember it, but I don't, it was so vivid and so clear. So for me, for her to come to me, give me those jewels that she gave me, show me what to do to heal myself, I just took that remarkably serious. And I just never gave up. Even though a zillion opportunities have came for me to potentially give up, but I just never gave up. And I never took no for an answer. And I have always believed that Honey Pot can be what it is and more. And, and that belief system in myself and in my dreams and in my products and in the humans that help me to bring these things to life. I never give up on that belief system. I live with that. I eat, sleep, breathe that. I do not give up. I focus, and but in doing that, there is a lot of things that I have to give up, right? There is a lot of sacrifices that I have to make. And I'm just willing to make those sacrifices, because if I do this the right way, then me and my family will be in a really great place. And so for me, I have that, I have a North Star in front of me, and I'm in a spaceship, and I just got to I just got to put the address of that North Star into the GPS, and I just got to keep the course. I can't let stress get me down. I can't let no's get me down. I can't let COVID get me down. We can't, too much has gone into it. And so for me, it's really as simple as that. I made this decision and I stand behind it. And too many people have sacrificed too much for something that is my dream. And so for me, I don't take that very lightly.
Beatrice, like you talk about something that strikes me, because as an entrepreneur, it hit me. You said that your grandmother came to you in the dream, and then you immediately took action. Like, what can help these young people start to build a skill set of taking action and taking action without delay? That was something my mother used to always say to us: take action without delay, be able to surrender and take action. And I know that's critical to be successful in business and in life, like especially at this moment. Are there there things that they can do in their young, lives right now to start to build and strengthen that muscle of like not doubting
Yes.
yourself, not thinking twice, just
Yep.
take action.
Yeah, if you want to do something, if you are a young girl who and I'll say this because I've been there before, right? I did not like my weight. I did not like how I looked, and I was extremely self-conscious about it, right? If that is you, straight away figure out a way to start working out, right? Look at your diet. Pay attention to that. Focus. If you have a thing that you repress, that you hold inside, that you feel you don't like about yourself, don't focus on the thing that you don't like about yourself. Focus on what you can do to turn that around, right? If you're not doing the best in a class, right, and you want to do better, right, go talk to your mom or go talk to one of the people at your school to help you to figure out what you need to do better, right? Just get on top of it and do it. Whatever the thing is, don't beat yourself up about it, right? Don't, if you want to be nicer to people, if you want to be better to your parents, if whatever the thing is that you want to do, it doesn't have to be built around school and what other people want out of you. It only has to be focused on what you want out of you, right? And as young people in today's world where social media is huge and image is huge, right? That's a really great place to start if you're self-conscious about something within your image. Figure out how you can turn that thought process around so that you're not beating yourself up. Figure out how to love yourself, right? And that could be as simple as picking up a book, that could be as simple as writing I love you on your mirror when you wake up in the morning, right? That could be as simple as sitting down for 5 minutes and meditating. Those are the things that are essential in success. Taking care of yourself, right? I wasn't necessarily taught that because my mother wasn't necessarily taught that. But now that I know that, for me, that comes first. And so, I think a way to take action quickly and do something that's a goal. Start with yourself and start something, and it doesn't have to be a big thing. It could be like, you don't eat meat on Fridays, right? You go for a walk 3 times a week. You sit down and meditate. You Google meditation, right? You spend more time with your loved ones. You be better to your family. You just have to want to do it. And I think that really is the key. I don't mean Don't to be keep afraid harping to on mess that. up. Don't be afraid to
Yeah.
mess up because there is no right or wrong. Right. Right or wrong are made up things, right? Black and white and Asian and and all these words and diversity and equity and inclusion. Keep in mind, you guys, just be good humans, man. Be good humans and don't ask anybody for anything. Be whatever you want to be. You don't have to ask for you don't need people to accept you. You don't, right? And I think focus on getting yourself to a good place mentally,
Absolutely.
and everything else will follow.
And with that said, Beatrice, you made an incredible point. It's a great segue to transition into our mental health part. Thank you so much for joining us and leaving us with encouraging and inspiring words, not just for our students, but just for anyone in general. Some definite words to live by and following your dream, but sticking to it and making sure that you make the choice in the things that you want to do and taking accountability in them. So thank you so much. We honor you and appreciate you for coming on.
Thank you. And one last thing. If you know that you want to do it, but everybody else is like, don't do that. You need to go to school. You need to do this. You need to do that. If you are determined and you really want to do it, do it. and do it really, 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 really well. Really well. Love you guys. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Take
Love
care.
you too.
All right. Take care.
Have a good night.
Night.
All right, we're going to transition on to our mental health segment with Dr. Christy Norwood, as well as our own Dr. T. Dr. Christy Norwood is a licensed clinical psychologist who currently serves as the director of the Student Counseling Center at Hampton University. She earned her undergraduate degree in psychology from James Madison University and completed both her Master of Science in Counseling doctoral degree in counseling psychology from the University of Memphis prior to joining Hampton University. Dr. Norwood worked as an assistant chief of psychology at the Hampton Veteran Affairs Medical Center. During that time, she served as the coordinator of the post-traumatic stress disorder clinical team, coordinated efforts for the opening of the first women's mental health clinic, and served as the director of the postdoctoral training program. In her clinical work, she provides individual therapy, group therapy, and psychological assessments for trauma survivors. Dr. Norwood joined Hampton in August 2019, has been instrumental in continuing to educate and enhance mental health services for the Student Counseling Center. In addition to her role with the Student Counseling Center, she also serves as a faculty member for the Department of Psychology. Dr. Norwood's clinical philosophy is embodied by, you may not be responsible for being down, but you are responsible for getting up. She believes that her calling is to help decrease the stigma of mental health in the Black community and to assist our HU students in continuing on a path of emotional wellness. So transitioning on, Dr. Norwood, and what Beatrice said about basically being able to get up, essentially with your motto, you know, you may be down. How can we help our students? How can we help people in general, especially during so many uncertain times and things that are happening, to get up despite feeling down?
Absolutely. So, I think what Beatrice was really speaking to was with this idea of resilience. And so the best indicator of future resilience is past resilience. And so with our students, a lot of times we try to promote an atmosphere of primary prevention where we are trying to engage them. We're trying to make them aware of mental health. We're trying to talk about some of these stigmas. Many students come from families where family members still say, you just need to pray and it'll all go away, right? Or don't talk about your problems with anyone else, right? Don't go lay on a couch and talk to that Dr. Norwood. And so we try to create this, and Dr. Norwood could be anybody, it just happens to be me at Hampton University. So we try to create an environment where we are not just the counseling center, but really a culture across Hampton University where we are talking about mental health, where mental health doesn't necessarily just mean you're coming to the Student Counseling Center and you're seeing a therapist or engaging in a group. It's what you do every single day. So in the same way that we are now tasked with, wearing masks and physical distancing, as protective and primary prevention measures, the question is, what are we doing on a daily basis to take care of our mental health so that we can in turn become resilient and practice some of those healthy coping skills?
Dr. T, Dr. Norwood makes a great point. And what are some things that parents can do? So like, for example, my father, who's military, and would say to me when I express, I feel this, or I'm going through that. And he'd say, well, you're not the only one. And so when we have students who may go to their parents and say, this is happening, and maybe a parent's response is similar to how my father was, who I think, in some regard probably wasn't the intention to be malicious, but that was just how his generation handled those things. What are some things that students can, one, communicate with their parents, but also what can parents do to communicate with their children and making sure that, we are talking about these things?
Yeah, so, the first thing you do is don't be afraid to, I don't want to say stand up because people will think that that's a negative connotation, right? But many times our parents are doing the best they can with what they have. And as you said, Sasha, our parents didn't come with a vocabulary and an experience and the opportunity to talk about their feelings. So even though they want to support us, when we come to them or young people come to them, they may not have the skills, they may not have the language. And so just you even being persistent and saying that, yeah, but this is something I want to share with you. And can you share something with me? And just, keeping that space open to allow the parent to grow with you in that mental health space. Many parents and it doesn't matter whether they're older or younger, when people become parents, their mind shifts. And even if they had those skills when they were younger, they may have forgotten to flex them because they've been thinking of you as this child that they protect and nurture and try to fix. And now as a young adult and a student, who's growing and maturing and discovering who you are, your passion, there are a lot of new things and a lot of new ways that you will learn to relate to your parents. And this is a tricky time, these late teens, early 20s for parents. It's the beginning of a new relationship because it's no longer little child and parent, it's becoming adult parent, adult child. And so just having the courage to stand up and stay in your own position and feel confident that what you're asking is okay. But also, oftentimes, even if our parents can't do it in that moment, most young people who have made it to college have at least one other adult figure in their lives that they have been able to rely on for emotional support of some sort of support or comfort or guidance. And so don't be afraid to reach out. Family is not just the biology people that lived in the house with you. Family are the people that you lean on for support and nurturance and guidance. That might be a teacher from high school. That might be a neighbor down the street. That might be a clerk in a store that you used to go to all the time and they had an encouraging word for you. Or that lady at church that always put that quarter in your hand and you knew a quarter couldn't buy nothing, but that was the most amazing thing that someone did for you each and every week. So one of my girlfriends who works in child welfare, she's always telling young adult people to remember to use your resources. And we oftentimes think, like Beatrice said, we oftentimes think of resources as money, but young people have so many more resources they have people, they have experiences, they have each other. And so use those resources to stand up as you begin to explore and spread, and then lead by example. Your willingness to share your feelings and express them and heal will make space for someone else in your family, in your life, to do the same thing.
Absolutely. Dr. Norwood, as we transition on to the students, last question, and what can we do to improve the outcomes for new students having to engage in learning differently with this new normal, as we said, of education and what this may be looking like in the fall?
Yeah. So, that's a great question because it's something we've sort of toyed with, as graduate school really doesn't prepare you for this. So, all of the clinicians, administrators and staff, we're all trying to sort of figure this out across the country. And so some of the things that we put in place, we've utilized social media. So for example, Jayla, as a matter of fact, has been instrumental in helping us to manage social media, right? So while I might think that I'm young, there's things that she can, talk about and help me in terms of mental health and being able to reach some of her peers. We've actually started a hashtag, support over stigma, that we're going to be rolling out to help promote sort of a culture of, hey, you can get support and we don't have to continue to perpetuate this cycle of mental health. In addition, we actually went and very grateful the university was able to purchase a self-wellness program called Therapy Assistance Online. So all of our students, our faculty and staff can go online at their leisure and they can access these modules. So we're trying to work within the confines of technology while keeping our students connected. We were supposed to partner, had we planned it 3 weeks earlier, we would have had the event. We were supposed to partner and have the HBCU mental health tour. It still hurts me to my heart that we didn't have it at the time, but what we're trying to do is plan virtual events so our students can still continue to talk about mental wellness. We can connect with our peer counselors and we can continue to keep our students engaged. Just because we have to maintain some physical distance doesn't mean that we can't continue to stay connected and take care of our mental wellness. So those are some of the things that we've tried to do to stay connected to our students. And I think, again, just to highlight what Jayla and Ahmad and Courtney emphasized, part of this is not just us as administrators or the counseling center saying this is what needs to happen. Our philosophy is really to partner with our students, to connect with our students, to hear from them, to figure out what they need in this process. Research can say one thing, studies can say another thing, but it's another piece for me to talk to Courtney as an alumni, or to talk to Ahmad or Jayla as current students, and find out from them at Hampton University, this is what we need to take care of our mental wellness. So we try to hear from our students, listen to our students, and commit to implementing some of these virtual strategies to help protect all of our mental wellness, because just like they're going through it, we're all going through the same process too.
Absolutely. Transitioning back to our students as we begin to close this out, Ahmad, if you could start, and then Jayla, and then Courtney, I have a different question for you. Basically, can you help students currently? Basically, how can they stay engaged? How can they make sure that their voices are still heard, even though we have pretty much transitioned to a virtual platform in a variety of different things? But is there anything that maybe you've thought of or that you've been able to do to stay engaged with your learning, or that you've even thought of for the fall coming up, that you would recommend for other students who may be having that same thought, or maybe it may even be an issue?
I would say staying engaged on a student level, I would prioritize on social media, scrolling through and not just liking or reposting something, but actually internally thinking about it and seeing how you can challenge yourself and implement that into your life. One of the best things that I think has happened is Hampton University prioritizing mental health on a student level. Sure, it may not be the things that adults may endure, but I do believe that we have our own set of issues and problems that we go through on campus. And we want to be heard. We want to be in a space where we are appreciated, where we can be our best selves. And progressing and advancing is prioritized.
Thank you, Ahmad. Jayla, what would you say? What are some things that you're doing to stay engaged that you would recommend for other students, or even just the importance of, since you've definitely been an advocate for mental health, what are some recommendations you would give for other students who maybe be struggling with mental health or not sure how to discuss it?
Well, definitely use social media. Social media is a good way to get a lot of your information. And then when you do have concerns, email the appropriate administrators. I know that I had concerns going back to my dorm. I was just very nervous with everything happening. There was a lot of shutdowns. I know that I emailed my administrators and they were able to email me back. So not only staying engaged, but being able to email the appropriate people to have your concerns voiced. So just stay active on social media, but also you have to put things into action.
Okay, thank you. Courtney, as a former student, what are some takeaways that you would say how education has truly played a part for you, especially now you've came back from Hampton, you're in the DC area, you're a huge, art person, and oftentimes art is one of the first things that a lot of times we take
Yep.
away from our
But it's
students.
the most important.
How have you been able to continue to implement your passion, continue to implement, art, and be able to impact others, but how has also your education, been helpful in being able to do that?
It's to be humble, to be forever a learner and let go of your biases. What I mean by let go of your biases, you like to think that you know everything about a topic. And when I was at Hampton, this happened and that happened. I know what it's like. Um, the young people today, we talked about the generation, people like to talk about certain things, is to be humble, let go of your biases. You don't know everything, um, and to continue to be a learner, and also to give back. So I was helped when I was at school, and Michelle, I won't say doctor, I do need to do better as an alumni, and we're in these Facebook groups. I'm sure the younger groups, know, younger kids know about the older people's Facebook groups, right? So we a little pretentious in there, and we could reach out a little more and stop being on this high horse that we have achieved and we've made it. We haven't made it. There's a long way to go. And like your quote earlier, we have to reach back and help our younger generation.
Absolutely. Thank you, Courtney.
Yeah.
As we close this out, just wanted to, Dr. T, if you could chime in here and just give your final thoughts and, some ways that we can continue to stay engaged, discuss our mental health, and just, anything that you'd like to add to the conversation.
Yeah, so Sasha, I'm going to close out with my social fabric, which has been wrapping us. Many of the older generations, I think, even on this call, on this Zoom call, would be able to talk about the social fabric that they had as a protection, as a nurturance, as knowing that the community was connected, and whether you liked it or not, people were going to watch out for you and people were going to take care of you. And I agree with you, Michelle. We have let our young people down by letting that social fabric be torn. But now it's time for us to repair it, because they deserve to have that same level of comfort in knowing that the people around them, the people in their community, the people who look like them, people who worship where they worship, people who shop where they shop, care about them and are going to take care of them. And then they can use all of that resilience that they have, all of this amazing creativity that they have, to step out and burst forward with what God has put in each one of them. And so we want them to know their mental health is important to us. And if we've let them down in the past, we're getting it together. But even while we get it together, we need you to still be your best self and call us to the carpet. Like Courtney said, we know we're here. We want to help. And we kind of get comfortable only because we struggled hard. We worked hard and we're tired, but we can't get tired. We have to continue to work for you, as you will have to work for those who are coming after you. So we have to repair the social fabric that has been ripped, so that we can cover and connect our young people and the generations that come after them.
Thank you, Dr. T. Dr. Norwood, could you also share some resources as well?
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to shout out the Hampton University Student Counseling Center, because I think they're an amazing group of clinicians. I have a wonderful, wonderful team that I was blessed to be able to work alongside. So in addition to our website that you can check out, there also are some good apps. So there's an app called Breathe, 2, Relax. So that's a really good app. There's also a new app. It was designed for veterans, but really it's been helpful across whether you're a military veteran or not. It's COVID Coach. These are all free. I like free stuff. That's good. So it's called COVID Coach, and it's specifically designed to manage anxiety and stress in the midst of this pandemic. And then I know a lot of our students and a lot of folks out there are on Instagram and Facebook. And so especially for our ladies out there, Therapy for Black Girls. There's a licensed psychologist in Georgia, and she is doing some amazing work. She has started an actual guide for tailored to Black women. There's providers, there's a directory out there. She also posts some really nice inspirational sorts of questions, and also has a podcast. So that's a really nice resource as well. So I think, I appreciate this conversation, because I think it's part of our journey, particularly in the Black community, to change the conversation and change the narrative around mental health, not just with our students, but from generations from the past. And I think social media is a nice way to be able to learn more and hopefully encourage those folks who are out there that might be suffering in silence to have enough gumption to start the process to heal.
Thank you so much. Thank you, students. Thank you, everybody. Eris, you want to jump in and say anything as we're closing out? Anything that you may want to say in regards to just how important education has been to you, especially being the president of the National Coalition of 100 Black Women?
I'm multitasking. Like twofer with these different, anyways, but I just want to say that this has been absolutely fabulous. I have been loving the energy. I've been loving all the content. It's resonating so closely with me. I was telling Sasha, this is like conversations I have every day with my daughter. So I would love to continue to support this work and these efforts going forward. And I thank everyone for showing up, being so authentic and honest with this conversation. And just kudos all around.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you all. Thank you, everyone. Ahmad, Jayla, Dr. Marshall, Dr. Norwood, Courtney, and of course, Dr. T. I'll just close out with saying that, we appreciated this. This is such an important topic because we often don't, one, recognize the importance of HBCUs and the impact that they have had in many of our Black lives and the leaders that we see today and how many of them have attended HBCUs. And so, I do implore what Dr. Marshall said. We do have to show up. We do have to continue to give back so that we can continue to put the name recognition, continue to get the funding that our schools so desperately need. Because, a little known fact that a lot of people don't realize is that there are a lot of people who aren't Black who attend HBCUs and who get a quality education and who use that education to leverage and do the things that they need to do too. So it's important that we can just continue to show up and stand up for our schools. We thank you all. We hope that you've been able to take something from this conversation, but then also being able to, pivot and see how education can be used for entrepreneurship, like Beatrice Dixon said, but also how it can be, implemented in maintaining your mental health while you're at school, while maybe you're having to attend virtually. So again, thank you. We appreciate you, and we out.
Thank you. Good luck, Ahmad and Jay.